It was a quiet autumn afternoon when I decided to take a walk in the park. For a man like me, time is always scarce, but that day I needed silence. My name is Adrian Cole, and people in the business world know me as one of the most successful investors in the country. To them, I'm a billionaire, a man with everything. But what they don't know is that money doesn't buy peace. And I was searching for it that day. The leaves crunched under my shoes as I walked to the same bench I often sat on when I needed to think. I carried my coffee, hoping it would warm the emptiness I had been feeling for months. I had no meetings, no boardrooms, no flashing cameras, just me and the park. As I sat down, I noticed a small blonde girl standing a few feet away, holding a paper shopping bag in one hand. She wore a blue dress over a gray sweater, her little pink shoes barely making a sound on the gravel. Her face was flushed from the cold, but her eyes, they had that innocent sparkle children have when they believe in something. I smiled faintly, not wanting to startle her. She took a step forward, clutching the bag tighter. "Excuse me, sir." Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Yes?" I replied, lowering my coffee cup. She hesitated, then took a deep breath as if gathering courage. "Mommy's sick, but she still smile if you come to my party." For a moment I froze. Her words pierced through me like a sharp wind. I looked around, thinking maybe her mother was nearby, but there was no one, just people walking in the distance. I managed a gentle smile. "Your party?" She nodded eagerly. "It's today. Mommy said she can't bake a big cake like other kids have, but it's okay. If you come, she'll smile. She's been so sad and tired." Her voice broke slightly, but she quickly added, "You can sit next to me. I'll give you the first piece of cake." My heart clenched. I didn't know this child. I didn't know her mother. Yet, something in the way she spoke made me feel responsible, as if fate had put her in front of me for a reason. I chuckled softly, trying to keep my voice warm. "That's very kind of you. But why me?" She tilted her head, her blonde hair falling across her cheek. "Because you look lonely." Those words, they cut deeper than any truth I'd heard in years. This little girl, who couldn't be more than 6, saw through me like no one else had. Before I could answer, she stretched out a small, crumpled invitation card toward me. It had colorful drawings of balloons and a crook number 7 written in the center. "My name's Lily," she said proudly. "I'll be 7 today." I took the card slowly, staring at the bright scribbles. "Happy birthday, Lily." "Thank you." Her eyes lit up. "So, will you come?" I hesitated. I had no reason to say yes. I had meetings scheduled for tomorrow, deals pending, numbers to review. I was Adrian Cole, the man everyone wanted a piece of. But in that moment, none of it mattered. I looked into her hopeful eyes and said, "I'll think about it." Her smile widened, like I had just promised her the world. "Okay, we live over there." She pointed toward a cluster of old apartment buildings at the edge of the park. "Number 14, don't forget." And just like that, she ran off, her tiny shoes tapping against the pavement, her little bag swinging by her side. I sat there, holding the invitation, my coffee long forgotten. Something inside me stirred, a feeling I hadn't known in years. A strange pull toward that little girl, and the sick mother she spoke of. I didn't know it then, but that simple invitation was about to change everything. After Lily disappeared into the distance, I sat frozen on that park bench, staring at the little invitation card in my hand. Her words replayed in my mind. "Mommy's sick, but she'll still smile if you come to my party." Something about the way she said it made it impossible for me to walk away. I didn't have any plans that evening, at least none that mattered. My schedule was always filled with meaningless dinners, arrogant faces pretending to care about charity while they counted profits. But this felt different. I stood up and began walking in the direction she had pointed. toward those old apartment buildings at the edge of the park. The closer I got, the more the city's glamour faded. Cracked sidewalks, peeling paint, rusted balconies hanging on by threads. It was the kind of place I had grown up in before the millions, before the fame, before the loneliness that came with success. I stopped in front of Building 14. It looked tired, like life had drained the colors out of it. The stairwell smelled faintly of dampness and old paint. I climbed the creaking steps slowly, almost hesitating at every floor, until I reached a small door with faded numbers, 14B. There were balloons taped to the door, 3 of them, half deflated, struggling to stay afloat. A handwritten sign said, "Welcome to Lily's 7th birthday." I stared at it for a moment, my throat tightening. No printed banners, no expensive decorations, just a mother's desperate attempt to make her little girl feel special. From inside I heard faint laughter, Lily's voice. But then I heard something else, a cough. Deep, harsh, and painful. Knocked gently. After a few seconds, the door opened. It wasn't Lily. It was a woman, thin, pale, with tired eyes that once must have been beautiful. She wore a faded sweater over a simple dress, and her dark hair was tied loosely behind her head. Her face lit up with a polite smile, though I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "Hello," she said softly, her voice weak but kind. "Hi," I replied, clearing my throat. Lily invited me." For a moment, she looked confused. Then, she smiled faintly. "Of course, please, come in." I stepped inside, and the first thing I noticed was how small the apartment was. One tiny living room doubled as a kitchen and a dining area. There was a round table in the corner with a homemade cake slightly uneven, with pink icing that looked like it had taken every ounce of energy to make. Lily ran toward me, her face glowing. "You came," she squealed, wrapping her little arms around my leg. I smiled, bending down to meet her eyes. "I couldn't miss your big day, could I?" She giggled and pulled me toward the table. "Mommy, this is, what's your name?" I chuckled. "Adrian." Her mother repeated softly, "Adrian. Thank you for coming." She doesn't have many friends. I could tell what she meant. There were no other guests. Just Lily, her mother, and now me, a stranger in a suit, standing in a home that smelled faintly of disinfectant and something cooking in the kitchen. I glanced at the mother again. She was trying so hard to look cheerful, but her hands trembled slightly as she cut a slice of the cake. Another cough shook her frame, and she quickly turned away to hide it. "Are you okay?" I asked before I could stop myself. She nodded quickly, forcing a smile. "Just a cold. Nothing serious." But I knew better. I had seen that kind of cough before in hospitals, when my father had battled cancer. My chest tightened at the memory. Lily didn't notice. She was too busy showing me her birthday card collection, her tiny drawings scattered across the table. She chattered endlessly, her voice full of life, unaware of the storm that hung over her small world. And I stood there, feeling something inside me crack. I had been to lavish parties, billion-dollar celebrations, champagne flowing like water. But this tiny room, with its crooked balloons and paper plates, felt more real than all of that. Combined. As the evening went on, I helped Lily blow out her candles. I even sang a little, something I hadn't done in years. And when she leaned her head on her mother's lap, eyes closing with a tired but happy smile, I made a silent decision. I was going to find out what was wrong. And I was going to help them, whether they liked it or not. As I walked out of that little apartment later that night, the sound of her mother coughing echoed in my mind. I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about a birthday party anymore. I couldn't sleep that night. The city outside my penthouse window glittered with lights. But inside, I felt the same hollow darkness that had followed me for years. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, the ice clinking softly, and sank into the Tira. Leather chair in my study. The little invitation card lay on my desk. Bright colors, crooked letters, a 7-year-old's happiness scribbled in crayon. And all I could see behind those colors was a frail woman trying to smile through pain, and a little girl fighting to keep her world bright. I closed my eyes, and the memories came back like a storm. Was 8 when my father died. Cancer. We didn't have the money for proper treatment. My mother sold everything we owned, even her wedding ring, just to buy a few more weeks with him. But it wasn't enough. I still remember sitting by his bed, watching him fade away while my mother cried in silence. We were poor. People looked away because no one likes to see poverty. It makes them uncomfortable. I swore that day I would never feel helpless again. I swore I would make so much money that nothing would ever take someone I loved away. And I did. I built an empire from nothing. I became Adrian Cole, the name that filled business magazines, the man everyone wanted to meet. But in the process, I lost something I didn't even realize until tonight. Human connection. That little girl, Lily. She didn't care about my name, my wealth, or the empire I controlled. She just wanted someone to come to her birthday, because her mother was too sick to make it special. She invited me because, in her innocent eyes, I looked lonely. And she was right. I rubbed my face and sighed. Then I grabbed my phone and called the one man who could get me answers without asking questions. Daniel, my most trusted aide. Sir? It's past midnight. Everything okay? His voice was alert, like always. I need you to find someone, I said. Name? Lily. I don't know her last name. She lives in Building 14, Apartment B, near Greenwood Park. There was a pause. What am I looking for exactly? Her mother. I think she's sick. Find out what's wrong. Quietly. And Daniel. My voice hardened. No one else hears about this. Understood. I hung up and stared at the city lights again. Money couldn't bring back my father, but it could make sure Lily didn't lose her mother. The next morning, Daniel called with details. Her name was Emma Carter. 34 years old. Widow. Worked part-time at a grocery store until 2 months ago when her health forced her to stop. No savings. No insurance. She had been diagnosed with advanced pneumonia, but the doctor suspected something worse: lung cancer. She hadn't gone for the full tests because she couldn't afford them. I gripped the edge of my desk until my knuckles turned white. Get her tested. Today, I ordered. Daniel hesitated. Sir, she might refuse. Then, make sure she doesn't know who's paying. Tell the hospital it's part of some charity program. Whatever it takes. Yes, sir. After the call, I sat there for a long time, thinking about Emma, thinking about Lily, thinking about that small apartment and the balloons that barely held air. For the first time in years, I felt something. I thought I had buried long ago purpose. This wasn't a business deal. This wasn't about profit or power. This was about a promise I had made to a little boy long ago, sitting by his father's bed. Never let money decide who lives or dies. And now, I had the chance to keep that promise, but I also knew this Emma Carter wasn't going to make it easy. Women like her had pride. They didn't take handouts. So if I wanted to help her, I'd have to do it without her knowing who I really was. Little did I know, this decision was going to pull me into something much deeper than charity, something that would change everything I thought I knew about life, love, and myself. 2 days passed since Lily's birthday, but I couldn't get her little voice out of my head or Emma's soft, tired smile. Daniel updated me every few hours. The hospital tests were done discreetly under a community health initiative I had ordered my foundation to launch overnight. The doctors confirmed what I feared. Emma had stage 2 lung cancer. Treatable, but only if we acted fast. I sat in my office that morning, staring at the file Daniel had placed in front of me. Numbers and charts didn't scare me. I had built empires out of numbers, but seeing her X-ray, that scared me. Because for the first time in years, this wasn't about business. This was about saving someone who mattered. I closed the file and leaned back, thinking of a plan. Emma Carter would never accept help if she knew it came from me. She had that quiet strength in her eyes, the kind that refuses pity. I knew that. Look, well, I had seen it in my mother's eyes when she worked 3 jobs after my father died. So I decided on something simple. I'd visit again not as a billionaire, but as Adrian, the man Lily had invited to her birthday. That evening, I stood outside their door again, holding a small gift bag. Nothing extravagant, just a box of colored pencils and a sketch pad for Lily. Children deserve colors in their world. And for Emma, I brought a bouquet of fresh lily. The door opened, and there she was, Emma. She looked surprised to see me, but her face softened quickly. "Adrian," she said, almost like a question. "Hi," I smiled. "I hope I'm not disturbing. I just wanted to see how the birthday girl was doing." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "You didn't have to." Before she could say more, a voice squealed from inside. "Adrian!" Lily ran toward me, her little arms wrapping around my leg again. "You came back. Mommy said maybe you were too busy." I crouched down and handed her the gift bag. "For you. So you can draw more birthday cards." Her eyes widened as she peeked inside. "Wow, colors! Mommy, look." She ran off to the small table, already pulling out the sketch pad. Emma stepped aside. "Come in," she said softly. I entered, noticing little changes. Lily had drawn something. On the wall, 3 stick figures holding hands. A big one, a small one, and another tall one. I smiled faintly. "You didn't have to bring anything," Emma said as she placed the flowers in a glass jar. Her voice was calm, but I sensed the fatigue behind it. "I wanted to," I replied gently. "How are you feeling?" She paused, then gave a faint shrug. "Some days are harder than others." That cough came again, deep and harsh. She turned away quickly, but I noticed how her body shook. "Have you seen a doctor?" I asked carefully. "Yes." She said quickly, almost defensive. "It's just pneumonia." They gave me some medicine. I didn't correct her. "Not yet." Lily skipped back with her new sketch pad, holding up a messy drawing. "Look, it's you and Mommy and me. We're eating cake," I smiled. "That's beautiful." Emma looked at the drawing too, and for a moment, her eyes softened. Then she said quietly, she doesn't usually get this excited. "Thank you for making her smile." Something about the way she said it, so sincere, so raw, hit me deep. I found myself saying, "If you need anything, anything at all, you can call me." She gave a small, polite smile. "You've already done more than most people would." The rest of the evening passed in laughter, Lily showing me every drawing she had ever made, Emma sitting quietly, watching us with a strange mix of gratitude and sadness. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like Adrian Cole, the billionaire. I felt like family. When I left that night, Lily hugged me so tightly I almost didn't want to let go. And as I walked down those worn stairs, I made a silent vow. I will not let this family break, but I knew time was running out. Emma's cough was worse. She was hiding the pain, pretending everything was fine for Lily's sake. And that scared me more than anything, because I'd seen that before, the calm before everything shatters. It happened 3 nights later. I was in a late meeting, staring at a boardroom full of men arguing over a merger worth billions, when my phone vibrated. The name flashing on the screen stopped my breath. Lily. I excused myself and answered immediately. "Lily?" Her voice was trembling. broken. Adrian! Mommy won't wake up. She's on the floor and she's not moving. I shot out of my chair, my pulse pounding. Where are you right now? At home. I don't know what to do. She sobbed. Listen to me, sweetheart, I said, forcing my voice calm even as my heart roared in my chest. Stay by your mommy. Don't hang up. I'm coming. I didn't think. I didn't care about the meeting, the deal, the billions. I ran out of the building and into my car. Daniel, I barked into the phone. As I sped into the night, get an ambulance to building 14, apartment B now, and tell them it's life or death. Yes, sir. Traffic lights blurred as I drove faster than I ever had. Every second felt like an eternity, Lily's sobs echoing in my ear. When I finally reached the building, I took the stairs 2 at a time. Lily flung the door open, tears streaming down her cheeks. Adrian! She threw herself into my arms, shaking. Mommy! She just fell. I crouched down, holding her tightly for a second before rushing inside. Emma was on the floor, her face pale, her breathing shallow and ragged. For one terrifying moment, I thought she was gone. Emma! I dropped to my knees, gently lifting her head. Stay with me, please. Her eyelids fluttered weakly. Lily, she whispered before another cough racked her fragile body. It's okay, I said, my voice breaking. Help is coming. Just hold on. The siren wailed in the distance, and moments later, paramedics burst in. I scooped Lily into my arms as they lifted Emma onto a stretcher. She reached out blindly, her fingers trembling until they touched Lily's hair. Mommy! Lily cried, clinging to her hand until the paramedic gently pulled her away. I carried Lily down the stairs, whispering, It's going to be okay. I promise. But inside I was terrified. Terrified of losing someone who had no idea how much she had come to mean to me. At the hospital, chaos surrounded us, doctors rushing, machines beeping, nurses shouting codes I hadn't heard since. My father's last night alive. Lily sat in my lap, sobbing uncontrollably, her little fists gripping my shirt like I was her only anchor. Adrian, is Mommy gonna die? She whispered, her voice so small it shattered me. No, I said firmly, holding her closer. I won't let that happen, and I meant it. Whatever it took, however much it cost, Emma Carter was not going to die. Not on my watch. I signed forms, threw down my credit card, made calls that had hospitals scrambling like they'd never scrambled before. Within an hour, Emma was moved to a private suite, the best doctors in the city on her case. They started emergency treatment to stabilize her lungs, prepping for cancer therapy next. When it was finally over, when the doctor came out and said, She's stable for now, I felt my knees weaken with relief. Lily was curled up on a couch, her head in my lap, fast asleep after hours of crying. I stroked her hair, my chest heavy with emotions I couldn't name. When I looked up, through the glass wall of the ICU, I saw Emma lying there, pale but breathing. She didn't know. I was the reason she was alive. She didn't know I had pulled every string, spent every dollar, to make sure she had a fighting chance, and I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. Because this wasn't about gratitude. This was about something deeper, something I hadn't felt in years. As I sat there in the silence of the hospital night, Lily's tiny hand clutching mine, I made another vow. I wasn't going anywhere. The first light of dawn spilled through the hospital windows, casting soft shadows on the polished floors. I had spent the entire night in that chair, Lily curled against me like a tiny, fragile bird. Every time she stirred in her sleep, I whispered that everything would be okay, even though I wasn't entirely sure myself. Then, at 6:14 a.m., the doctor walked in. She's awake, he said quietly. My chest tightened. Carefully, I slipped Lily onto the couch and followed the doctor to Emma's room. She lay in the hospital bed, pale but conscious. Her eyes fluttered open when she heard the door click. When she saw me, her lips parted in confusion. "Adrian?" Her voice was raspy, barely above a whisper. I stepped closer, forcing a calm smile. "Hey, you gave us quite a scare." Her brows knitted. "The doctors? They said, private suite, specialists." Her voice trembled. I can't afford this." "You don't have to worry about that right now," I said softly, but her stubborn pride lit up even in her weakness. Who paid for this?" I hesitated for a long moment. I had promised myself I wouldn't tell her not yet, but something in her eyes, the raw vulnerability mixed with strength, made me realize she deserved the truth. I took a deep breath. "I did." Her eyes widened, shock flashing across her pale face. "You, Adrian, this isn't just some small bill. This is hundreds of thousands," I finished for her. "Yes, I know. Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why? Would you do that for us? You barely know me." I swallowed hard, my past clawing its way up my throat. "Because I do know you, Emma. Not your name, not your history. But I know what it feels like to fight alone. To smile for your child when your world is falling apart. My mother did the same when my father was dying. We didn't have money. No one helped us. And I swore I would never let that happen to anyone. If I could stop it." Her lips trembled. "But, Adrian, this isn't charity. It's not charity," I interrupted gently. "It's a choice, my choice. Because the day Lily walked up to me in the park and invited me to her birthday party, something changed. She saw me. Not the billionaire. Not the headlines. Just me. A lonely man who forgot what it's like to matter to someone." Emma stared at me, stunned. "Billionaire?" she whispered. I smiled faintly. "Adrian Cole. I'm sure you've heard the name." Her eyes filled with tears, not of greed, not of awe, but of disbelief and confusion. "All this time, why didn't you say anything?" "Because I didn't want you to look at me and see money. I wanted you to trust me. The man Lily thought was worth inviting." Silence stretched between us, heavy and fragile. Then a small voice broke it. "Adrian." We both turned. Lily stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, her voice sleepy but clear. "Does this mean you can be my daddy now?" Emma gasped. "Lily," but I couldn't help it. I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. I walked over, knelt down, and held out my arms. Lily ran into them like she had been waiting her whole life. I looked up at Emma, who was trying so hard to hold back tears, and said softly, "If you'll let me, I'll be whatever you both need me to be." For a long moment, she just stared at us, me holding her little girl like she was the most precious thing in the world. Then, slowly, she nodded dot, and in that hospital room, as the morning sun washed over us, something new began. Not a deal, not a contract. Something far rarer. A family dot, and for the first time in decades, I felt rich not because of what I owned, but because of who I had found.